Throughout Counter-Strike's 25-year history, no tournament has been more important than the majors. While in 1.6 in source, majors were operated and run by third-party tournament organizers, in CSGO, Valve Corporation decided to dip their toes into the world of competitive esports. Beginning in 2013, Valve began sponsoring majors with prize pools upwards of $250,000, setting a new precedent for production and competitive integrity. Through the highs and lows, through the disappointments and triumphs, majors have continued to break viewership numbers and unite Counter-Strike fans from across the world. This is Retrospective, a history of Counter-Strike majors. Dreamhack Winter 2013 took place at the Elmia Convention Center in Jönköping, Sweden on November 28, 2013, and lasted 3 days long. There were a total of 16 teams in attendance at Dreamhack Winter 2013, and interestingly enough, 2 of the teams actually qualified through a Bring Your Own Computer qualifier. You see, at Dreamhack Winter 2013, there were 2 slots up for grabs from teams who had not qualified through invite or through open qualifier, and so the tournament organizers allowed teams to bring their own computers and qualify for the tournament on the spot. The 2 teams that took the Bring Your Own Computer qualifier slots were Zapso and Reason Gaming. Zapso was a team that featured a prominent member of the CSGO community today, Cadian, as well as AZ and Robin and 2 Norwegian players named Ultra and Senix. Reason Gaming, on the other hand, featured MSL, the famous in-game leader, as well as SMF, Cologne, EXR, and Lamy. Although neither of these teams went far in the tournament, the fact that 2 teams were able to qualify through a Bring Your Own Computer qualifier at a Counter-Strike major with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line shows how far we've come as a scene. Following the Bring Your Own Computer qualifier, 2 other teams qualified for the major through an open online qualifier. Those 2 teams were LGB Esports and Recursive Esports. Recursive Esports features names such as Happy, GMX, Kenny S, Uzi, and Maniac. Although Kenny S had previously played for Very Games, him and Shox were known to have had a relationship that soured at times, meaning that the 2 of them almost never played on the same team. Very Games previous in the year had Kenny S on their roster, but ended up siding with Shox in their most recent dispute, with Shox being the person playing for them during the Dreamhack Winter Tournament. LGB Esports, on the other hand, featured names such as Krims, Dennis, and Olaf Meister, who would eventually sign for Fnatic and win more majors in the future. There were 6 teams who were directly invited to the tournament. Those teams were Team iBuyPower, Team Fnatic, Clan Mystic, Very Games, Complexity Gaming, and Astana Dragons. iBuyPower featured names such as AZK, Dazed, Adren, Skadoodle, and Anger. Fnatic featured names like JW, Flusha, and Pronex. Clan Mystic featured Kiyoshima, Kukli, and Apex. Very Games, who was considered one of the strongest teams at the time, featured names such as Scream, Shox, Exist, and NBK. Complexity Gaming, NA's second representative, featured names like Hiko and Nothing, who were famous from 1.6, and Astana Dragons, a recently assembled team that would later become Hellraisers, was considered to be a CIS super team of sorts, featuring names like Dosia, Adren, Markelov, Kutcher, and Angel. Lastly, 6 teams qualified for the tournament through previous tournaments that were held. Ninjas in Pajamas qualified through Dreamhack Summer, N Faculty through Dreamhack Valencia, SK Gaming through Dreamhack Bucharest, Copenhagen Wolves through EMS 1 Fall, Universal Soldiers through EMS 1 Fall, and Navi through Tech Labs Cup. Navi had a roster featuring players like Zeus, Starix, and Seized. Universal Soldiers is the Polish lineup that would later become the major winning Virtus Pro team. Copenhagen Wolves featured what would later become the Astralis core of Dupree, Zipmix, and Device. SK Gaming was actually a Swedish team that featured players such as Delpan, Twist, and Madi. And Faculty featured Danish players like Glaive, Kerrigan, Cajun B, and Pimp. And Ninjas in Pajamas, the legendary 87-0 team, featuring Forrest, Get Right, Exist, Fiflaren, and Freiberg, coming into the tournament as clear favorites to win it all.
Hello everyone. There's something amazing happening. I was watching a tournament live Reason Gaming versus Standard Dragons. Oh, and I got the fucking Dreamhack cash.
It's important to note that Dreamhack Winter 2013 was only a 3-day long tournament and did not feature any player stickers. There were souvenir guns in the game and souvenir packages that were able to be dropped. However, these did not feature signature stickers or team stickers, but only the logo of Dreamhack Winter 2013. Team stickers would not be introduced until EMS1 Katowice 2014, the following major, and it would take a few more majors even after that to introduce autographs. Therefore, this major has very few skins in-game that you'll see with the Dreamhack Winter 2013 logo on them. When the tournament began, there were 4 groups: Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. Group A consisted of Fnatic, LGB Esports, Clan Mystic, and Navi. Group B consisted of NIP, Recursive Esports, Universal Soldiers, and iBuyPower. Group C consisted of Complexity, Very Games, and Faculty, and Zapso. And Group D consisted of Copenhagen Wolves, Astana Dragons, Reason Gaming, and SK Gaming. The clear #1 favorite team going into this tournament was Ninjas in Pajamas. I remember when I was watching this tournament, I couldn't believe that Ninjas in Pajamas had to actually play through all of the matches to get the trophy. It was almost a given that they were going to win the tournament. The only team that they were expected to have any competition against was Very Games, the French squad, who had also won tournaments earlier in the year. However, Ninjas in Pajamas and their 87-0 streak was unprecedented in the history of Counter-Strike up until that point, and they were expected to absolutely steamroll the competition. Aside from Ninjas in Pajamas, from NA, Complexity Gaming seemed like a promising team. Nothing was a veteran from 1.6, Semphis had a lot of experience under his belt, Swag was an up-and-coming young player, and Hiko and Sean Gares were both also veterans who could round out the roster. Hiko actually ended up making the top 10 2013 HLTV Players of the Year list. Astana Dragons was also a team that people needed to watch out for. Dosia was one of the best players in the world at the time, Markelov had just come off a 1.6 career that involved him being rated the #1 player of the year a few years earlier, and Kutcher, Adren, and Angel were all great supportive pieces for the team. Universal Soldiers as well was a team that could not be underestimated. A squad that had been together for so long, had endured so many different hardships, and had always seemed to come out of nowhere whenever the time arose. With the group stage set, it was now time to begin Dreamhack Winter 2013. The format of the tournament was as follows. Each group would be played on exclusively BO1s, with the 5 maps in the map pool at the time being Dust 2, Inferno, Mirage, Nuke, and Train. It's important to note that at this time, the 7-map map pool had not yet been introduced, and so teams could only decide between 5 maps. One team would ban a map, then the next team would ban a map, then the next team would ban a map, then the last team would ban a map, and whatever map was left over would be the map that would be played during the best of 1. The group stage was described as a GSL group, meaning that each team would play the lower-seeded opponent. Then, once a team got 2 victories, they would advance to the playoffs. The first team to get 2 losses within a given group would be eliminated from the tournament. Both teams that went 1-1, meaning that they had 1 win and 1 loss, would then fight each other in a decider match, with the winner moving on to the playoffs as well. This means that for each group, there would be 2 teams advancing to the playoffs, and 2 teams being eliminated from the tournament. Theoretically, a team could come into the tournament, lose 2 best-of-1s, and be eliminated, out of the race for the $250,000 in the snap of a finger. As news outlets began covering the tournament, Group A had 2 clear favorites, Navi and Clan Mystic. According to HLTV, these 2 teams were the ones who were going to make it through the tournament. However, things didn't always go as planned. In the opening match, Fnatic actually defeated Navi 16-9, with pop-off performance from Schneider, the support player. In the second opening match, Clan Mystic faced off against LGB and won the game in a nail-biter 16-14 match. Then, in the elimination match, LGB went up against Navi, beating them 16-13. This meant that Navi exited the tournament with a 0-2 record, losing to both of the home Swedish teams. Clan Mystic, now in an advantageous position at 1-0, had to face Fnatic to move on. They went on to get obliterated 16-6 to Fnatic. At this point, they had to play against LGB Esports in a decider match on home Swedish soil. Olaf Meister and Krims were not going to let this one get past them, and they beat Clan Mystic 16-2 to move on to the playoffs. In Group B, HLTV predicted that Ninjas in Pajamas and Team iBuyPower would be the two teams that made it out of the group stage. As predicted, Ninjas in Pajamas beat Recursive Esports 16-13 in a closer game that many would have expected, but nonetheless got the job done. In the second opening match, iBuyPower played the Polish team Universal Soldiers and lost. However, no one would fault a young iBuyPower team for losing to Universal Soldiers, the Polish veteran squad. iBuyPower then faced Recursive Esports in the elimination match and lost 16-8. In the winners match, Ninjas in Pajamas absolutely destroyed Universal Soldiers 16-4 to secure a 2-0 victory and a ticket to the playoffs of the first CSGO Major. In the decider match, a nail-biting game between Universal and Recursive Esports, 16-13, in favor of Recursive Esports, takes them to the playoffs over the Polish team. With the conclusion of Group B, Dreamhack Winners' first day had officially ended. November 29th was just around the corner, and the two teams from each group who will be moving on to the playoffs would be decided the next morning. According to HLTV, the two favorites coming into Group C were Very Games and Complexity Gaming. This prediction would actually seem to come true on day one, with Very Games taking on Zapso in the opening match and beating them handedly 16-8. Cadian's troops would then have to rejoice in their elimination match. Meanwhile, Complexity would face off against N Faculty and beat them 16-5. It seemed as if both of the two favorite teams were going to be able to handedly take their group. However, in the next winners match, Complexity vs. Very Games is one of the best games of the entire tournament. A nail-biter 16-14 victory for Complexity over Very Games, arguably the second best team going into the tournament, leaving them absolutely shocked. Meanwhile, in the elimination match, N Faculty beat Zapso 16-5, sending Cadian's team home in last place. That would leave the decider match to see who would go on to the playoffs. Would it be Very Games, the French squad, the veterans who had already won 4 tournaments prior to this one? Or would it be N Faculty, the new and upcoming squad with CS legends of the future such as Kerrigan? Well, as the match played out, Very Games would take it 19-6. Dust 2 was the map, and Very Games came off to a blazing start, winning the T-side 11-4. By halftime it was too much, and N Faculty was unable to come back. This meant that HLTV was correct, and Very Games and Complexity would both secure their spots in the Dreamhack Winter 2013 playoffs. HLTV's predictions would seem to come true again, as in Group D, HLTV predicted that Copenhagen Wolves and Astana Dragons would make it out of the group. This prediction would eventually come true. The first games of the day saw Astana Dragons convincingly beat Reason Gaming 16-11. Following that, Copenhagen Wolves convincingly beat SK Gaming 16-11. This made it so that Reason Gaming and SK Gaming were fighting in an elimination match to see who would stay in the tournament. Reason Gaming ended up defeating SK Gaming 16-3, keeping them alive in the tournament and sending SK Gaming home. Meanwhile, in the winners match, Copenhagen Wolves, the Danish team, would beat Astana Dragons 16-7, securing Zipnix, Device, and Dupree a spot in the playoffs of the first major. In the decider match, Astana Dragons would defeat Reason Gaming, and in a very close match would win 16-13 to secure their spot in the playoffs. As the group stage came to an end, and the sun set on November 29th in Jönköping, Sweden, 8 teams would be in the playoffs of the next day. Those teams were Fnatic, LGB Esports, Ninjas in Pajamas, Recursive Esports, Complexity Gaming, Very Games, Copenhagen Wolves, and Astana Dragons. The stage was set. The first Counter-Strike Major playoffs were about to begin. The first series between Ninjas in Pajamas and LGB Esports was a Swedish derby. Forrest, Freiberg, and Get Right versus Olaf Meister, Dennis, and Prince. Map 1 was Dust 2, in which Ninjas in Pajamas took an 11-4 lead over LGB. Everyone thought the game was over, but suddenly LGB made a massive comeback, winning the game 16-14. However, their luck would dwindle, as on Train and Inferno, Ninjas in Pajamas were too much for them. Specifically, Forrest, Freiberg, and Get Right all combined for amazing performances, leading Ninjas in Pajamas to be the first team to secure a semi-final spot. The next series was Fnatic vs Recursive Esports. The first map, Inferno, went well for Fnatic, who won the map. But then, on Dust 2, Robin Stommer, aka GMX, absolutely destroyed Fnatic and tied up the series 1-1. However, Fnatic would eventually take the last map, Train, and move on to the semifinals themselves. Noticeably, Kenny S had an extremely disappointing showing in this quarterfinals, dropping a 0.73 rating with a -18 kill-death ratio. Meanwhile, his opposition, JW, went 77-55 with a +22 kill-death differential and a 1.34 rating. This meant that after the first day of quarterfinals, 2 Swedish teams had already secured their spots in the semis. The next matchup was Copenhagen Wolves vs Very Games. Could Shocks, Smiths, and Scream beat the eventual Astralis core of Zipnix, Dupree, and Device? Well, the question is yes. Very Games, with an absolutely bonkers performance from Scream, the aim god himself, would move on to the semi-finals to face Ninjas in Pajamas. The first map was Dust 2, the second map was Inferno, and the third map was Mirage. Both Dust 2 and Inferno were blowouts, with Dust 2 being a blowout in favor of Very Games. On this map, Scream dropped 29 kills with an almost 2.0 rating. Keep in mind, this was back before rating 2.0, during the rating 1.0 era, where a 2.0 rating was almost unthinkable. Copenhagen Wolves got absolutely destroyed. Next up was Inferno. On Inferno, Dupree and Zipnix combined for a total of 45 kills to blow Very Games out of the water. Scream, who had previously dropped almost 30 kills, only went 12-18 this game with a 0.7 rating and a -6 kill-death differential. After 2 blowouts in a row, Mirage was finally a close match. The 2 standout players of this one were NBK and Zipnix, both of whom had above 1.3 ratings. However, in the end, Very Games was too much for Copenhagen Wolves, who eventually would secure the match 16-12, booking their place in the semi-finals. Who they were going to face, however, was still up for grabs. Lastly, we have the quarterfinal matchup between Complexity and Astana Dragons. A lot of people don't realize, but Complexity actually made it to the semifinals of this major, beating Astana Dragons, becoming the first NA team to ever make it to the semifinals of a major. This would not happen again until MLG Columbus 2016, when Team Liquid made it to the semifinals of that major and lost to Luminosity Gaming. However, at this event, the standout player was by far Hiko. Hiko was unbelievable at this event, specifically in the match against Astana Dragons. Although a few of the maps were close, Hiko's dominance was just too much for the CIS squad to endure. Map 1 took place on Nuke, and with a pop-up performance from Dosia, the ex-god himself, Astana Dragons were able to take the first map. With this momentum, you'd think that they'd go into Dust 2 with a chip on their shoulder. However, Complexity ended up taking the CT side 9-6, before taking the T side 7-1 and winning on Dust 2. They then took this momentum into Inferno, winning the map 16-12 and securing a spot in the semifinals. The first semi-finals matchup was Ninjas in Pajamas vs Very Games. Many people considered this to be the grand finals of the event, as these were the 2 favorited teams. Very Games, on one hand, had won 4 tournaments coming into this event, and had been in the finals with Ninjas in Pajamas numerous times. NiP, on the other hand, was by far the most dominant team coming into the tournament, having gone 87-0 previously, and won numerous tournaments before this. Get Right was by far the best player in the world, with Force right behind him. Going into Dust 2, no one knew what was going to happen. However, Ninjas in Pajamas handedly won the map 16-13. Following that, Very Games came back swinging, winning the next map, Inferno, 16-6, absolutely destroying Ninjas in Pajamas. The last map, the decider, was Nuke. Unfortunately for Very Games, Nuke would go the way of NIP, and it was not even close. NiP ended up winning the map 16-5, absolutely destroying Very Games. This booked them a spot in the grand finals, but to many they had already won the tournament. Whether Fnatic or Complexity would make it to the finals wouldn't really matter to most people. NiP was by far the best team, they'd beaten the second best team in the world, and they had won the major already. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, Fnatic, another Swedish team, absolutely destroyed Complexity 16-7 on both Train and Mirage, booking a spot in the grand finals. I wish there was more to talk about with this game, especially being from North America, but there really isn't. Fnatic absolutely stomped Complexity on home soil and set up a domestic matchup in the grand finals.
It really took me by surprise. I must say it did. I would have picked Astana. I would have picked Very Games way before Fnatic, especially with adding Pronax so early on. I really didn't see it coming. There's the power of that young Swede, the master AWP.
That was a very smart play by Fnatic. I think that was Pronax's call because he was the first guy running out of counter-terror spawn. They knew Get Right, I believe, was on top of Catwalk. He was going to flank them any second. So had Fnatic just stayed there by spawn ramp, they would have inevitably died, all of them.
Bang, they come through, they don't check the corner. He only gets the one kill, does a lot of damage, but Exist is already here. Flusher takes him down with some interesting AD spray coming out there. And now in the middle, Schneider goes down there in the library. That leaves Flusher alone in a 1-on-3. And this is the final round of the first half here of the second map. But Flusher in a 1-on-3. If he does this, that will really cement his role as probably the MVP of this whole tournament. He's already been playing fantastically, but that would be truly something. He's behind the sandbags and they come for him. He gets the first kill. Now it's a 1-on-2 and the bomb is ticking away. He's kind of zoned out here and that's not good. He has to go back and get a headshot and they're waiting for it. Get Right is low. The bomb is being defused. Flusher gets the first kill. He sprays through. They stop defusing and it's a 1-on-1. Flusher's out of bullets. 2 left. He goes down. Flaring, but there's no time. Flusher did it. Oh my god. It's going to be 11-4. What a round. I cannot believe he got that.
The Fnatic vs Ninjas in Pajamas matchup was actually quite epic in hindsight. For example, during Dreamhack Summer 2013, Ninjas in Pajamas and Fnatic had gotten into a scuffle. They had to replay the overtime of a match, which led to Fnatic players refusing to shake the hands of Ninjas in Pajamas players. This led to bad blood between the two squads. Furthermore, Ninjas in Pajamas was by far the most beloved squad in Sweden, so even though both teams were Swedish, Ninjas in Pajamas had all of the love. They also had a documentary crew following them around the whole tournament because they were expected to win. As the grand finals begin, all eyes were on Forest and Get Right. Could the two star players bring their side to victory? Dust 2 began with an absolutely amazing T-side from Ninjas in Pajamas, going up 12-3 against Fnatic. This is all what we expected, thought everyone. Ninjas in Pajamas was easily going to take the win, the documentary crew was going to follow them into the sunset, and they would take home the first major trophy. However, that's not what happened. In lightning fashion, Fnatic ended up taking the map back, going 13-2 on their own T-side, absolutely destroying Ninjas in Pajamas. Going into Inferno, all of the momentum was in Fnatic's corner. Would Ninjas in Pajamas be able to come back and show that they were truly a world-class team? A similar start from Ninjas in Pajamas, 11-4 up on the Inferno CT side with an amazing performance from Adam Freiberg. But this time, Ninjas in Pajamas wouldn't let it go. They would handedly take the T-side 5-2 against Fnatic and win the map 16-6. Alright, the first map may have been a fluke, but Ninjas in Pajamas was now in the driver's seat. They had just won Inferno 16-6, and it was time for them to take home the trophy on home soil. However, things are never so simple. Fnatic ended up beating Ninjas in Pajamas 13-2 on the CT side of Train. Well, it was a very CT-sided map, you might think, so Ninjas in Pajamas would have the ability to come back. However, this did not happen. Fnatic won the T-side pistol round and closed out the game 16-2, taking home the first Counter-Strike major and a grand prize of $100,000. Ninjas in Pajamas did not get their title, and Fnatic cemented themselves in history as the bad boys of Counter-Strike.
Get Right and Forest are left, the bomb goes down, and ladies and gentlemen, this could be the end. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. It's Forest alone in a 1-on-3. I think we just might be ready for it. Forest picks up the 1 kill, but he has a scout. I mean, it's a 1-on-2. All Schneider and JD all they have to do is just wait and buy time. And there it is. They win it, and look at them. Even Khan jumping up, one of the most composed people I think in Counter-Strike. Complete celebration. What a victory and how they deserve it. Lopez, I mean, we did say it. Fnatic, they could take the victory. They just did it. Dreamhack Winter 2013 champions. You've got them right here on your screen.